In 1985, on a remote Portuguese island, a boy was born into a family of 6 living inside a tin-roofed shack. His father scraped by as a gardener and part-time kit man. No money, no connections, no way out. That boy would go on to earn over $1 billion, win 5 Ballons d'Or, and become arguably the biggest athletic superstar the modern world has ever produced. His name is Cristiano Ronaldo. But what transformed a barefoot kid from Madeira into an unstoppable force began with a sacrifice most 12-year-olds would never survive. Cristiano Ronaldo dos Santos Aveiro was born on February 5, 1985 in Funchal, the capital of Madeira. His full name, long and formal, felt out of place in the cramped, tin-roofed shack that the Aveiro family called home. 6 people shared those 4x5 meters: parents, 3 older siblings, and the youngest, Cristiano. The walls were patched with plaster, the roof groaned under the Atlantic wind, and every corner held the smell of damp earth and salt air. There was no privacy, no comfort, and little hope for more. His father, José Diniz Aveiro, left before dawn each morning with a battered set of garden tools, working city gardens for a daily wage. In the afternoons, he earned a few extra escudos as the kit man for a local club, Andorinha. The job brought home used boots and worn jerseys, but rarely enough money for anything beyond bread, beans, and the occasional fish. His mother, Maria Dolores, rationed every meal, sometimes skipping her own portions so her children could eat. Nights were cold, the single bulb above the kitchen table flickering, while the family shared stories and chores, washing dishes, collecting firewood, folding clothes by hand. In Santo Antonio, a neighborhood where most families lived in shacks built from whatever they could find, hardship was ordinary. Children worked as soon as they could walk, selling newspapers or helping in the market. School was a routine, but football was the pulse of the hill. The grass pitch at Andorinha became Cristiano's escape. He played barefoot, sprinting across dew-soaked fields before sunrise, his only audience the stray dogs and the echo of his own breath. The sound of the sea, constant and restless, mixed with the distant cheers from weekend matches and the rhythm of Madeiran Portuguese, shaped his speech and his sense of belonging. Even as a boy, he felt the weight of being an outsider, of having nothing to offer but speed and hunger. Inside that shack, ambition was not a dream, it was a necessity. Every moment of scarcity, every humiliation grew into a silent promise to run faster, train harder, and one day break free from the walls that closed in around him. On the steep lanes of Santo Antonio, football was more than a distraction, it was survival. Cristiano, wiry and restless, chased battered balls down alleys slick with morning dew. He played barefoot, toes numb from the cold, weaving between parked mopeds and the legs of older boys who didn't care if he got hurt. The streets were his first pitch, the curb his sideline, and the battered tin shack behind him was a constant reminder that there was nothing else to claim as his own. Every day started with chores, collecting firewood, washing dishes, running errands for neighbors in exchange for coins or scraps of bread. By 8, he was already learning the cost of hunger and the value of work. But as soon as the first light hit the hill, he'd vanish to Andorinha's field, where his father's job as kit man offered a rare privilege, a used pair of boots, sometimes 2 sizes too big, always patched and worn thin. The other boys at Andorinha called him Crybaby for his tears when he lost, Little B for the way he buzzed around the pitch, never still. He played as if every touch might be his last, sprinting until his lungs burned. Losing wasn't an option. There were no trophies, just pride and the hope that someone, anyone, would notice him. Coaches whispered about his speed, his hunger, the way he'd chase a ball into the thorns without a second thought. Evenings brought him back to the shack, mud caked to his shins, face flushed with sweat and hope. His mother would scold him for torn shirts, but she never told him to stop. In the darkness, he'd juggle oranges or rags tied with twine, practicing until his legs gave out. Football was not a pastime. It was a necessity, a way out, the only thing that made sense in a world that offered so little. At age 7, he made his first appearance for CD Andorinha, the smallest and youngest on the team. No one in the stands expected greatness from a boy with patched shorts and bare feet, but every goal, every sprint, every scraped knee was a small rebellion against the limits of his birth. The game became his promise to himself, that one day he would not just escape the shack, but lift his family with him. At 12 years old, Cristiano left behind the salt air of Madeira and boarded a plane to Lisbon, carrying little more than a duffel bag, and the hope that football could change everything. The journey stretched 500 miles, a distance that felt even longer as the city's unfamiliar skyline replaced the hills of Santo Antonio. Sporting CP's academy was a world apart from the cramped shack he had known. Here, the routine was strict. Early morning drills, hours of technical sessions, shared dormitories, and regimented meals. The days started before sunrise and ended with lights out, each one measured by the whistle and the stopwatch. In the corridors and locker rooms, Cristiano's Madeiran accent set him apart. Teammates, many from wealthier families, mocked his island speech and the way he pronounced certain words. Some called him the Little Islander. Others laughed at the old boots he brought from home. The teasing cut deep, but he refused to let it break him. Instead, he poured his frustration into training. While others rested, he stayed on the pitch, running sprints until his legs shook, practicing step-overs and free kicks until the sun slipped behind the stands. The loneliness weighed on him. Letters from his mother arrived every few weeks, sometimes stained with tears. He missed the simple dinners, the sound of the sea at night. But the academy's grind, its discipline, its relentless pace, became his new shelter. Each day he sharpened his skills and his resolve, determined to prove he belonged. The distance from home was more than geography, it was a test. In the echo of empty dorm rooms and the sting of ridicule, Cristiano's obsession found structure. Every sacrifice, every humiliation became fuel. The boy who arrived with nothing but ambition was learning to turn pain into power and discipline into destiny. Barely a teenager, Cristiano Ronaldo found himself facing a threat no amount of training could outrun. At 15, during a routine checkup at Sporting CP, doctors heard the warning in his chest, a heart that raced without reason, skipping and stuttering in a rhythm that could have ended his future before it began. The diagnosis was supraventricular tachycardia, a condition that sent his pulse soaring, sometimes over 120 beats per minute, even at rest. For a boy who lived to run, to sprint, to push his body to its limits, the news landed like a sentence. The world he had fought so hard to reach, Lisbon's bright lights and the promise of professional football, suddenly narrowed to a hospital room. The doctors outlined the risks. Without treatment, one wrong surge of adrenaline could stop him in his tracks. The proposed solution was a catheter ablation, a procedure that would thread a wire through a vein to his heart, burning away the faulty electrical pathway. It was delicate, but it offered hope. He agreed to the surgery, knowing it was the only way forward. The operation left a small scar just below his left chest, a mark that would never fade, even as the rest of the world saw only the flawless athlete. Recovery was rapid, but the days in bed felt endless, filled with the fear that his dream might be lost. Yet, as soon as he was cleared, he returned to the pitch, training with a hunger that startled his coaches. The scar became a reminder, not of weakness, but of survival. Every sprint, every goal, every drop of sweat carried the memory of what he nearly lost. For Ronaldo, football was no longer just a way out of poverty. It was a second chance at life, and he refused to waste a single moment. August 6th, 2003. The stadium lights in Lisbon burned against the night sky, casting long shadows across the pitch at Estadio José Alvalade. Manchester United stars, champions of England, lined up for a pre-season friendly, expecting a routine match. But on the left wing for Sporting CP, a wiry teenager with sharp cheekbones and restless feet was about to change everything. Cristiano Ronaldo wore number 28, but his play demanded every eye. From the first whistle, he drove at United's defenders with a confidence that defied his age. Stepovers blurred, defenders stumbled, and each sprint left seasoned professionals chasing air. In the 15th minute, he darted down the flank, cut inside, and unleashed a left-footed shot from distance that rattled the crossbar. The crowd's roar was immediate. Minutes later, he danced past two more defenders, drawing a desperate foul at the edge of the box. His teammates looked for him now, feeding him the ball again and again. Every touch was electric, an audacious backheel, a flick over a sliding challenge, a burst of pace that left Gary Neville flat-footed. In the second half, Ronaldo collected the ball near midfield, beat one, then two, then three defenders, before firing low past the keeper. The goal sent a jolt through the stadium. On United's bench, Sir Alex Ferguson leaned forward, his eyes fixed on the boy from Madeira. After the final whistle, United's players filed into the dressing room, still talking about the teenager who had run them ragged. John O'Shea, exhausted, shook his head. Ferguson turned to his staff and said, "We need to get him, now." That night, the world's biggest club saw not just talent, but preparation meeting opportunity, a boy forged by hunger and hardship, seizing his moment on the biggest stage he had ever known. £12 million changed hands on August 12, 2003, and with that, Cristiano Ronaldo became the most expensive teenager in football history. He landed in Manchester as an outsider, barely 18, barely fluent, and carrying nothing but ambition. Sir Alex Ferguson handed him the number 7 shirt, a symbol weighed down by legends like George Best, Eric Cantona, and David Beckham. To some, it seemed a risk. To Ronaldo, it was a challenge he had been preparing for since the days of hunger on Madeira. The first months were a blur of new routines and new expectations. In the dressing room, veteran players watched him closely. On the pitch, defenders tried to kick the flair out of him. But every bruise, every doubter, only sharpened his resolve. He spent hours after training working on stepovers, free kicks, and sprints, determined not just to fit in, but to stand out. Ferguson recognized the hunger, sheltering him from early criticism and demanding even more. Each season, Ronaldo added something new: power to his frame, precision to his finishing, discipline to his movement. The trophies came quickly: an FA Cup in his first year, then 3 Premier League titles in a row. In 2008, he scored 42 goals in all competitions, leading United to Champions League glory in Moscow. That same year, he was awarded his first Ballon d'Or, confirmation that the boy from the tin-roofed shack had become the world's best. By the summer of 2009, he had won every major honor in England, his name chanted in stadiums from Manchester to Moscow. The world's eyes were now fixed on him, and Real Madrid prepared a record-breaking offer that would shake football to its core. In the summer of 2009, the world watched as Real Madrid shattered every precedent, paying £80 million to bring Cristiano Ronaldo to Spain. No player had ever commanded such a fee. The white shirt of Madrid carried its own weight. Di Stefano, Raúl, legends woven into the fabric of the Bernabeu. But Ronaldo's arrival promised something even greater, a new era. He did not shrink from the expectation. Instead, he redefined it. From his first match, the goals came in torrents. By the time he left Madrid in 2018, Ronaldo had scored 450 times in just 438 appearances, a record that stands alone in the club's storied history. Season after season, he delivered. Hat tricks in El Clasico, last-minute winners, overhead kicks that seemed to defy physics. The Champions League became his personal stage. 4 times he lifted the trophy with Madrid, including back-to-back triumphs in 2016, 2017, and 2018, each campaign fueled by his relentless drive. Individual honors followed. 4 Ballons d'Or as a Madrid player, 5 in total, cementing his name alongside the greatest to ever play the game. He broke records for goals in a single Champions League season. He became the first player to score in 3 finals for one club. For nearly a decade, the Bernabeu echoed with his name. Each goal a reminder of how far he had come from the hills of Madeira. In Madrid, Cristiano Ronaldo did not just win, he set a new standard for greatness. The boy who once juggled oranges on the dirt floors of Madeira now signs his name to global empires. Cristiano Ronaldo is no longer just a footballer. He is a brand, a business, a phenomenon. In 2013, he launched the CR7 lifestyle line, stamping his initials and his number on everything from denim to fragrances. The boutiques multiplied, first in Portugal, then across Europe, then the world. Each new store was a reminder. The child who wore patched shirts now sets style for millions. But Ronaldo's ambitions stretched far beyond fashion. In partnership with the Pestana Group, he opened the first Pestana CR7 hotel in Funchal in 2016, just blocks from where his family once struggled. The hotel's rooftop overlooks the Atlantic, a view he could only dream of as a child. More hotels followed in Lisbon, Madrid, New York, and Marrakesh. The CR7 Museum opened its doors in Madeira in 2013, filled with trophies, jerseys, and the gold-plated boots of a self-made legend. It welcomes more than 200,000 visitors a year, pilgrims to the story of impossible ascent. Off the pitch, the numbers are staggering. Forbes places his career earnings above $1 billion. He was the first footballer to reach that mark while still playing. On Instagram, his following has soared past 585 million, more than any other athlete, more than most celebrities, more than some nations. Every post, every endorsement, every business deal builds on the promise he made as a child, to never be ordinary, to transform struggle into legacy. The boy from the tin-roofed shack became not just a champion, but a symbol of what is possible. In 2009, Cristiano Ronaldo returned to Madeira with a promise fulfilled. The boy who once slept under a leaking tin roof, who watched his mother ration bread and beans, now stood before a new house built with his own success. This was not just a building, it was a gift to Maria Dolores, a way to erase the memory of cramped rooms and cold nights. The address was the same hillside in Funchal, but everything else had changed. Where there had once been peeling plaster and rusted metal, there were now sunlit windows, sturdy walls, and space for family to gather without crowding. Ronaldo paid for every stone, every tile, determined that his mother would never again know the fear of scarcity. The purchase, finalized in 2009, was more than a transaction. It was a reversal of fate. For Maria Dolores, the kitchen was no longer a place of worry, but of warmth and celebration. For Cristiano, this home was proof that the sacrifices, the years alone in Lisbon, the pain of ridicule, and the discipline that set him apart had been worth it. In the quiet of that new house, surrounded by the people who shaped him, Ronaldo closed the circle that began in poverty. The world saw a superstar, but inside those walls, he was still a son repaying a debt written in hunger and hope. Cristiano Ronaldo dos Santos Aveiro was born on February 5, 1985, in a shack on Madeira. Today, he stands as football's first billionaire, the most followed athlete on Instagram, and a symbol of transformation. His journey from ridicule and poverty to legend proves no ceiling exists. Only the limits we accept. In every stadium roar, his story reminds us that greatness can rise from anywhere. What is your limit?